When the Kremlin publicly announced that it was accelerating the mass production of the Kh-47M2 Kinzhal hypersonic missile, the global security landscape shifted overnight. This was not a routine military statement, nor a symbolic gesture meant only for domestic audiences. It was a blunt signal that Moscow is moving decisively into a new phase of strategic competition with the West. One defined not by numbers of troops or tanks, but by technological breakthroughs capable of rewriting the rules of modern warfare. If NATO once believed it could rely on advanced missile defense systems to shield its territory, the Kinzhal is the weapon designed to expose those assumptions as dangerously outdated. The Kinzhal is no ordinary missile. With a speed of up to Mach 10 and a strike range exceeding 2,000 kilometers, it travels faster than any defensive system in the Western arsenal can reliably intercept. Its ability to maneuver at hypersonic velocity renders it unpredictable in flight, making interception attempts a gamble at best. Unlike conventional ballistic missiles, the Kinzhal can be launched from high-performance aircraft such as the MiG-31K or Tu-22M3 bomber, extending its reach and tactical flexibility across Europe, the Middle East, and beyond. This combination of speed, range, and unpredictability transforms it into a true game-changer. The announcement of mass production came at a time when the war in Ukraine continues to test the resilience and credibility of both Russia and the NATO alliance. For Russia, the Kinzhal represents far more than just a weapon. It embodies a narrative of technological leadership and strategic independence. While Western officials and media outlets frequently highlight the impact of sanctions designed to cripple Moscow's defense industry, the decision to expand Kinzhal production shows that Russia's military-industrial complex is not only intact, but also capable of sustaining innovation under pressure. For NATO, this announcement lands as a strategic shock. If Russia succeeds in fielding the Kinzhal in large numbers, the balance of power in Europe changes dramatically. Every major NATO airbase in Eastern Europe, every command center in Germany, and even American carrier strike groups in the Mediterranean would fall within reach of a weapon that current defenses are ill-prepared to counter. This is not a hypothetical scenario. It is a near-term reality that compels Western planners to confront vulnerabilities they can no longer dismiss. The psychological dimension of the Kinzhal is just as significant as its technical attributes. In Ukraine, Russian forces have already employed the weapon against high-value targets, sending a message that even fortified facilities and Western-supplied air defenses cannot guarantee protection. Western claims of successful interceptions have been met with skepticism, not least because evidence is often ambiguous or absent. By contrast, Russia has released footage and reports of strikes that reinforce the missile's reputation as an unstoppable tool of precision and destruction. The truth on the battlefield is not always clear, but what is undeniable is the fear the Kinzhal projects. Beyond the battlefield, the missile's impact is strategic. The NATO alliance, long confident in its technological edge, now faces the uncomfortable reality that it lags behind in hypersonic capabilities. While Washington has accelerated its own hypersonic programs, none are operational, and Europe remains almost entirely dependent on American defense research. Russia, by contrast, has not only developed such systems, but has already deployed them in combat conditions and now commits to producing them on a mass scale. The gap is real, and closing it will take years. The Kinzhal also represents a profound failure of sanctions as a tool of containment. Western policymakers argued that restricting Russia's access to advanced electronics and industrial components would cripple its ability to build high-tech weapons. Yet the acceleration of Kinzhal production demonstrates that Russia has found alternative supply chains, developed domestic solutions, and maintained its defense sector under conditions that were expected to grind it down. Instead of collapsing, Russia's defense industry is functioning as a central engine of the national economy during wartime, providing jobs, driving innovation, and sustaining the military campaign. This development also forces NATO to rethink its defense posture. Missile defense systems like Patriot or Aegis, long considered reliable shields, are increasingly viewed as inadequate against hypersonic threats. Western military leaders now face a stark dilemma. Either commit vast sums to developing counter-hypersonic systems that may not be ready for another decade, or acknowledge that their forces and infrastructure will remain exposed to Russian strikes in the meantime. In either case, Russia has seized the initiative. Domestically, the Kinzhal is more than a weapon. It is a symbol. It demonstrates to the Russian public that their nation remains strong, technologically advanced, and capable of standing up to Western pressure. In state media, the missile is portrayed as both a shield and a sword, a defensive guarantor of sovereignty and a strategic instrument that deters aggression. For a society under sanctions and external pressure, such achievements serve as a powerful rallying point, reinforcing national unity and confidence in the state's leadership. For NATO, however, the implications are sobering. A missile that can bypass existing defenses and threaten strategic assets undermines the very foundation of deterrence that the alliance has relied upon since the Cold War. If US and European leaders cannot guarantee the safety of their forces, command centers, or even their civilian infrastructure, their credibility weakens. Allies on NATO's eastern flank, who depend on American security guarantees, are now forced to question whether those guarantees can withstand the reality of hypersonic warfare. Geopolitically, the Kinzhal strengthens Russia's position within a shifting international order. Countries outside the Western Bloc, particularly in Asia and the Middle East, view Russia's hypersonic capabilities as proof that Western dominance in military technology is no longer absolute. This perception enhances Russia's credibility as a partner and as a counterweight to US influence. In a multipolar world, the possession of advanced weapons like the Kinzhal is not only a military advantage, but also a diplomatic tool that broadens Moscow's strategic appeal. The Western response has been predictable: downplay Russia's achievements, claim limited successes against Kinzhal strikes, and emphasize ongoing hypersonic research projects in the US and Europe. But the uncomfortable truth is that Russia is operating from a position of strength. The Kinzhal is not a prototype, not a test project, and not a distant dream. It is a deployed weapon system, now entering mass production. That reality undermines attempts to dismiss it as mere propaganda.